September 4th meeting of the CPC committee. I'd like to suggest one thing. We have Mike Antonellis on and Victoria Chavez from Central Mass Regional Planning. And on the agenda down near the bottom is CPA plan update with Central Mass's request for focus group members. So I'm thinking since we have Mike on and Victoria, maybe we could jump to that agenda item and give them an early evening. So if that's all right, I don't know, Mike or Victoria, who would like to take over and talk about your plan and your proposal for a focus group.
I'll defer to Victoria on this.
All right, perfect. Hello, nice to see you guys. So me and Mike have actually been talking. We think it'll be best to create a focus group. And within this focus group, we want to make sure that we're really hitting all the main points that should be within the plan. I want to make sure that we can hear about how you guys receive and review certain applications. How do you approve them? How do you even process it? The real goal is to create like a flow chart. And with that as well, with you guys as part of the focus group, maybe you can also help me reach out to other people who you think would be very valuable to be within this discussion that we can have and build upon it. So I have reached out in certain stakeholder emails, key stakeholders, which could from the Historical Commission, Planning Board. I've talked with housing representatives, all that good stuff. Some people have gotten back to me, other people haven't, unfortunately. So maybe even Mike P has been a lot of help actually, some with people reaching back out and helping me get some of that information back out. But hopefully with the focus group meeting, we can really build on that. And maybe if there's actually we can meet face to face, people will be more willing to give us more information and connect a little bit better. So that's the big spiel right now, but I was hoping we can probably schedule a time and then you can give me some information and I can start reaching out to those people to create that focus group.
Okay.
Do you have a date in mind or some possible dates?
I know September is a pretty busy month with elections, schools, and just a lot of stuff going on. So I'm thinking hopefully maybe by sometime in October, maybe the week of the 7th, if we can.
How's that for so would you like most members of the CPC or all members to attend, or would you how do you anticipate running this? Would you like to just get a group of people, a more general group of people together and meet with them, or would you like part of the CPC or all the CPC there, or what, what's your thoughts?
Honestly, I think I understand if not everyone can make it, but I think at least minimum 3 members of the CPC so I can see what the whole thought process is of how you guys review your process and everything, and maybe so we're not just keeping it with one person, maybe they forget something, but it would be beneficial if everyone can come too and we can have that open discussion, but at least minimum 3.
And Mike, what do you think? You get someone like Bill Taylor, or just trying to think of someone else that may have come and asked for funds in the last year and a half or so, right, where things are fresh. Therefore, we can kind of just walk through, really what they did in order for prep. Right, and then how we analyzed it and came to a voting decision. Because Victoria, it sounds like that's what you're looking for.
Exactly, because in the plan, the main goal is to kind of build you guys up. So when you're not in the CPC anymore and new board members come in, they have something else to reference as well.
So the purpose of this, again, is it's a guidebook, correct? To sort of help new members like me and Brian understand how the process works.
Exactly. And not so much like he say, she say, and then you guys are just trying to build, you're starting off from scratch again, or it's just, it makes it a lot easier for everyone.
Would it be worthwhile to have somebody from the finance? I know Kenny's really busy, but someone, because I know that with the Affordable Housing Trust, it took Brian nearly a year to be able to get, in information, because it was kind of Byzantine how the reporting of that stuff works. And I think that's something that would be very useful, is to, have, Brian really had to bird dog it.
From finance, you said?
Yeah, Michael, I don't know who the appropriate person would be.
Kathy, are you suggesting somebody from the finance committee, or do you mean like Kenny himself?
Well, I don't think Kenny can do it. I don't know if it's Jess. I originally was thinking Paul, because Paul tends to, all the stuff, it seems, again, I
Yeah.
haven't been through a town meeting cycle, but in my experience, when when folks are looking for CPC funds, they're also looking for town funds as well. And so usually that goes
Yeah.
before the finance committee, but I don't know if that really has anything to do with process. But I think someone from our budget office, again, Jess, Kenny, and I'm going to defer to Brian, because Brian's the one that had to, really unravel this. What do you think, Brian?
From my perspective, as far as it went to the Affordable Housing Trust, it was because we didn't have anyone to understand the sources, the flows of information from Kenny to us. Now, this may not exist with that type of problem with the CPC, but maybe it does, because I was thinking of looking at some of the CPC reports of projects, and some of the projects were older, and it could be that the that lack of, maybe there was a lack of flow of information on projects that were closed or should have been closed, and what kind of steps are taken or need to be taken to complete that cycle. And that's a key process flow that I'm sure you're interested in, Victoria.
Exactly. And I noticed that too when I was looking, there's like a weird gap, and then all of them come in at once. You can tell there's a little delay for sure. So
I think Kenny would be the guy that could provide a lot of information in for that, because he did, because I think it was 2014 and 2011, some of the funds that did initially come into the Affordable Housing Trust came from CPC.
I think it would be good to at least invite someone from the finance committee too. They have, I've been involved with this committee too long, but I have heard a few times when they were somewhat negative about this committee. So some members of the FinCom were somewhat negative about this committee, the CPC committee, kind of implying that we weren't vigorous enough in reviewing the requests for funding. So I think it would be good to ask them for a representative, or ask them for a couple of representatives if they wanted to give their thoughts.
And through the chair, I was also going to suggest, and Victoria, I think I had followed you up with a suggested panel, but I would also suggest, because I think historical was mentioned, that my son is staring at me just off the camera. I was going to suggest Ed Robertson or Craig Weinfuss from Historical Commission. I think maybe Ed has probably recently done projects.
Yep. Yeah, and Mike, just to comment on that, I guess that's why I was leaning more towards Ed would be great. That's, I think, also why I was thinking Bill, because I think Bill's brought in a couple of them fairly recently as well.
From historical perspective, Bill's championed those?
from open space.
Right. So Victoria and Mike, I was just thinking to get perspectives from all facets. That would be taking from the different buckets, right? To pick up on Rick's point.
Is that Ed Phillips from the Historical Commission? or Ed's,
That's
yeah.
correct.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say Robertson? I worked with an Ed Robertson who was also in the historical commission my last job.
Gotcha. Okay, I was like,
My
I have a
bad.
different last name, but he's also historical, so let me
Ed
just
Phillips.
double check.
I- Just a question. I remember at the last meeting, and I know the Affordable Housing Trust had this too. You know, seeing this as a guidebook, I think one of the things that is still complicated is what the process is to return funds. And I mean, there's just a whole process map
Mm.
that would be really useful because again, that's a hard thing to. It's more complicated it seems than it should be. And I know at our last meeting, there was just I think somebody had funds to give back or something,
Mhm.
and it's not as simple as just returning it.
I
And
do have some an update. I communicated with Kenny, and he explained the process to me,
yeah,
which we can actually we've got a whole list of projects that
Yeah.
I'll be proposing and close out later on. this
but that
evening.
just might be a good thing if this is
It would be a good
again,
SOP to have.
this is a
It would be a good
guidebook.
SOP to have in the handbook.
So
Absolutely.
people that understand it, it might be nice just to, and we don't need people on this panel to do that, but it'd just be good maybe just to have a map of the process that's required because I sure as hell don't understand it.
Okay.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's actually a really good. I can put a note on there and put that in there for sure.
Victoria, my name
Any
is
other? Oh, Chris, go ahead.
from Conservation, and I've been on CPC for quite a while. And I'd be very happy to help remotely.
Yes,
what-
from conservation.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So you work on both boards
Yes.
of the team? Okay, that's perfect. Thank you.
Welcome.
If there
Does
any
the
other-
recreation department come to the CPC with projects? And it-
That's me.
Oh, okay.
And no, we haven't in a while. I think the last one that officially been done was some stuff with Leland that we actually took off the board, or as one of the items on the list to
Yeah.
give back. So, but there is a meeting next week at this very time, I think, that has memberships from both schools and other things coming together to talk about field situations and things that are ongoing there and Trask properties, so that the recreation side may start picking up quick.
Nice. And Rick, you're chair on the recreation, correct?
That I am. Yep.
Okay, perfect. It's good to be putting faces to like the names I have on lists. So I know.
And I was kind of remiss. Brian, this is your first meeting.
That's right.
We should have gone around and introduced ourselves, but we can do that in a moment. But welcome, Brian. Anyway.
Thank you.
So, any other thoughts on this event? And maybe we could propose a day and a time in October. That
I agree.
would work for at least the people here who are interested in attending.
Can I suggest one more entity?
Yes.
Would it be worthwhile to have someone from the Board of Selectmen or from the executive branch of town government, because they have the final say on what goes on the warrant, I think. So,
Yeah, Mike, do you recall who is our liaison for CPC?
Joe, the town manager.
Well, I thought the select board, I thought that there was always like a person that kind of, has a soft chair, that helps out the groups.
I
Like-
believe it's for the appointed boards like this one. I believe it's the town manager.
Oh, okay.
For the elected boards, one of the selectmen usually
Yeah,
are the
okay.
liaison.
Well,
You can
for the-
double check that, but I think
Yeah.
that's the case.
For the I mean, this is something else that should be on our, SOP is that I think for the Affordable Housing Trust, which is an appointed board, the liaison is Maureen Dwinell. And so we do have a liaison.
Right.
But I'm not sure if we're an exception to the rule.
No, because Laura
That's-
Hebb is with us with recreation, so.
Mike, do you know the
So-
answer to that?
Yeah, I was going to say through the chair, I'm not looking at the bylaw right now, but I think it spells out in the Affordable Housing Trust bylaw that a member of the select board needs to be appointed to that
Okay.
trust. So I think that's why you have Maureen on that. But I was just looking at, if you go on the select board's webpage, it lists the liaison assignments, and I don't see CPC on any of those assignments. So Maureen is dedicated to Board of Assessor, Finance and Capital Budget, Affordable Housing Trust. Again, I don't think that's a liaison assignment. I think that's through the bylaw, and Mendon Upton Schools. Brett is BVT, Planning Board, ZBA. Laura is Board of Health, Library Trustees, and Rec.
Well, it's something that we could discuss as part of this plan, is maybe recommending that we do have this committee does have a select board member, that we can go to.
I think that would be an excellent idea.
Okay, so
Maybe we just
back-
invite the board to, be part of this focus group and hope that, and
So as I think getting back to Victoria, you had mentioned kind of the second week of October, the week of the 7th, like Wednesday the 9th. Is that kind of the target?
That would be
Since
perfect.
since we all meet on Wednesday, I don't know if other people have other meetings on Wednesdays though.
Yeah, the Concom meets the second and fourth Wednesdays of the month.
Okay.
So Thursday, the 10th.
Sure.
I know Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm actually out on the field coaching, so it doesn't mean that I can't join a little late. It just means I wouldn't be able to start at 7. I'd be able to get on around 7:30.
What we
How
started,
about Wednesday, the 16th, the third Wednesday of the month?
I'm not going to be around, but you don't need to have me.
Third Wednesday. I'm available as well. So if we're doing also 7 o'clock, I'll be available.
Let's tentatively throw that out there for folks. We certainly need to reach out to the other members that aren't here to see if that's available for them as well, right? So,
Mhm.
yeah,
Right.
because
Ryan,
Because
does that work for you?
It does, yeah.
Okay, so you can handle, I mean, obviously you can, but if you're there, the Affordable Housing Trust, yeah, your
I can.
question, okay.
Okay, well, if that's all right, let's pencil that in, 7 p.m. on the Wednesday, the 16th of October. And
hybrid,
Victoria, could you like prepare a short email, just an invite, basically, that we could review and then send around to the folks that we would hope might attend.
Yeah, of course. Do you also want me to create a link for Zoom or Teams
Sure,
already in that email? Okay, perfect.
that'd be great. Thank you.
Do we want to sketch out any of the things that we discussed tonight? Because I found out that sometimes that really helps discipline a conversation.
We can definitely do that. I'll send a 2-part email in a sense. One section that we can send out to the members who we want to invite, and then also just a recap of what we discussed and what our main points are going to be about. Perfect. And then I'll probably get that sent out to you guys tomorrow morning.
Okay, cool. And anything else on this topic? Victoria, thank you for your time, and Mike too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, you can get back to your son now,
Thank you.
Mike. Is he still staring
I've had
at
a
you?
visit. I've
Is
had a
he-
visit from every child to, within the last 22 minutes, and so this is why I usually don't take meetings from home.
Mhm.
That's okay. Because you were very good on it. We never would have known if you hadn't told us. And you were in a much better mood than usual anyway, so
Mhm.
All right, well, thanks, folks.
yeah, bye, folks.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you. Have a
You
good night.
one.
Okay. Okay, hey, well, let's go back to introductions. Brian, let's go around the table here. I'm Mike Penko. I'm on the Concom and Open Space. As of last month, I'm the chair of this committee. Chris
Conservation Commission and Open Space.
and Rick.
Rick Porter, so I'm Recreation Chair as well as this.
And Catherine Robertson, I think you know her, Brian.
I do.
Yeah, I'm the
Um,
planning board. My reason for being on this board, I'm the planning board designee, but I'm also on the Affordable Housing Trust.
And we have Brittany on.
Yep.
Hello, Brittany.
Hi, yep. So I'm still not clear if I am the appointee from the Selectmen or if I'm the Upton Housing Authority, because I am on both. I think originally the Selectmen appointed me and then I got onto the Housing Authority, so they appointed me. So not to be confused with the Affordable Housing Trust, because I often say the wrong thing, but Upton Housing Authority.
And I'm Brian Gallagher. I am on this board representing, along with Kathy, the Affordable Housing Trust.
And you're a selectman's appointee, though, correct?
Yes, I am.
Yes, and we have Russ Wood. I saw Russ on earlier. I'm not sure. Russ is the Historical Commission representative. And then there's two open positions that are select board appointees. Anyway, well, welcome, Brian. Good to have you
Thank you.
aboard. I think we can start working down the agenda. The next agenda item is previous minutes. Before Grace left us, she did 2 minutes from the last meeting, which I think I circulated earlier today. Did folks have a chance to look through those minutes, or would you like more time?
I did not have a chance to look at them.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't either.
Okay. Let's just if that's all right, let's just pass over them until next meeting. Approve expenses. There was a voucher that I approved for the Lakes and Ponds analytical budget. I think that was since the last meeting, since almost a month ago now. But I think that's been the only budgetary activity in the last month.
Can I ask a question on that, Mike? When Grace was here, and I know Mike Antonellis is off the call, but she used to send something to members of the committee, you know, basically if we had any objections to voice them, or else you were going to approve it. And, you know, again, I'm new to the board, so I don't know anything. So there was never anything for me to comment on. But do you know who's going to do that, or if that's going to continue?
That's a good question. That was the procedure that Paul had worked out, and I think that was operational for quite a while when we had staff. Partly, my perspective, it was a good procedure because Grace would put the request out, so we weren't having a discussion, you know, that could potentially be considered an open meeting type violation. Grace was polling basically individual members. And that seemed to work. And then Grace would get back to Paul or me, you know, the chair, and say, you know, no objections. It's okay to sign the voucher. you know, we can talk about whether or not that's still appropriate to do, especially since we don't have staff right now. I don't think we have a lot of vouchers to worry about coming forward for a while. But that was the procedure that was used in the past.
I have a question. What is the size of most of the vouchers that go out? They're under 1,000, correct?
Many, yeah. There were a couple of much larger ones for the Grange, not too long ago. But many of them aren't very, you know, in the less than $5,000 range or so.
Yeah, I think it depends on the projects that have been approved, right? As some of them that we know, like the Grange had a pretty good price tag, so we knew that was going to come out in bigger chunks. We had the Lakes and Ponds Committee doing some stuff that was probably only a third of that total cost, and that one was spread out a little bit more over time, so that didn't have as big as bang of the buck. You know, from an immediate time frame, right? So I think it just depends on, you know, it just depends on the project, and we'll see certain flows as they come in and out, and how they close out the projects and submit the invoices based on work completed and payments due. Hopefully
Mike-
that makes sense.
Mike, could I ask a quick question? Naive here. So when a project is approved and the monies now are expected to be spent on that project, and as that's spent, did the money stay with the CPC and then the CPC is paying them out of the funds, or were they transferred to the committee that had requested the funds, and these are just reports back to the CPC?
Most of the time, the account stays with the CPC, and the committee, say if it's Lakes and Ponds will forward us an invoice from one of their vendors, forward CPC an invoice from one of their vendors, and then CPC will vote whether or not to pay the invoice, or we'll review the invoice and then most likely pay it. I think there are I think actually the Affordable Housing Trust, I think you have some funds that were transferred directly to you. For those. I don't think the CPC has any involvement with any of those potential invoices. But for many of them, like for the many historical projects, rec, conservation, lakes and ponds, typically those invoices were being sent from the chair of that committee, whatever that committee is, you know, to Paul and Grace, and then they would get those invoices approved and then send them off to the treasurer collector, Kenny, who would actually cut the check.
Thank you.
I think Grace was trying to expedite the payment. However, I don't know if that was not with Overtown meeting law.
Well, I think it's worth. This is another one of those topics that, you know, we can try to address it as an SOP in this plan, in the committee, the plan that's being done. I think the reason that procedure was adopted is because the CPC committee meets just once a month, and we try to, you know, be you know, respectful of the vendors to try to get them paid at a reasonable amount of time. But anyway, that's a history there of vouchers. Okay, and then the next thing, and if we're done with this topic, the next topic is I'm gonna try to share my screen here.
So in the interim, do we want to ask Mike to keep sending those out? I guess is the question, because in the next month, I don't know if anything's coming up. I mean, Denise will probably do it, but until I guess they're doing some sort of reorg or something, but until someone new comes on, do we want Mike to keep sending these out? Do we want to say anything over $1,000? He sends out anything under $1,000, we authorize Mike to sign. I mean, what do people suggest? just to close this one out, Michael, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I'd entertain a motion from somebody to on this topic.
We can't hear you, Rick, if you're talking.
Yeah, sorry about that. Do we have the right to do that with a min-max amount?
I believe we do. Conservation does something like that.
I
And
think
we
the
have a
plan-
a
yeah.
policy where the chair is authorized, you know, to sign a voucher, and then the voucher is reported to the full committee afterwards.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I think the
So-
one thing,
Oh, go ahead, Chris.
I think the one thing that might come up would be paying for newspaper ads. We have things that have to be publicly noticed. And that's usually not.
Okay. Well,
I mean, so I will move that we request that the Office of Land Use Planning, you know, continue the procedure of polling members for all invoices exceeding $1,000 or $1,500, and you know, before Mike pays them, and invoices over that amount. No, actually, I'm sorry. To authorize Mike to sign all invoices under $1,000, and to request that the Office of Land Use Planning poll members for all invoices exceeding $1,000.
I second that.
any discussion? Hearing none, voice vote, please. Mike, aye.
Chris, I.
Rick, aye.
Brittany, aye.
Brian,
Judy,
I.
And Kathy, I.
And Russ is back.
Russ, you there?
Russ, did you hear that? That motion?
Doesn't.
You might not be hearing us. Okay, well, that was a majority vote anyway.
Yeah.
Thank you. Next thing I want to do is just quickly share my screen with the latest. Okay, can you guys see anything?
Yes.
See a
Yes.
spreadsheet?
Yep.
With a bunch of, okay. Well, this is the our latest spreadsheet from Candy Costa, the Treasurer Collector's Office. It's dated the end of June, so at the very end of last fiscal year. I just wanted to just show you, it's got all these projects on it. And what I've done is to go through this, look for projects that are potential to be closed, that are complete. Some were time limited by town meeting. The town meeting warrant article might have said, you know, to be completed within 5 years, 3 years. So there are several that are past that completion date. But anyway, this was the list that we started working with. And then I'd like to then share you a proposed, can you see this motion now? Can you see
No.
no, all right. I'm gonna have to reshare this then and then start sharing again.
Yeah.
Okay, just a second here. Okay, how about now? Can you see the motion?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, so went through and coordinated with some of the boards like the Historical Commission, Lakes and Ponds, Open Space, Town Manager, and I believe that all of these listed here, we can request that they be closed out, either because they were time limited or because the project is complete. And then I communicated with Kenny, and Kenny said what we need to do is have a motion to, the term he used was to rescind the projects and request him to transfer any of the remaining balances, you know, back to the appropriate account. So if this motion is approved, then the next meeting, we will hopefully approve the meeting minutes. And once we have this motion and approved meeting minutes, we can provide those to Kenny, and then he will work to close these out. So that's the procedure. We vote to close something out, the committee votes to close something out. The vote shows up in the meeting minutes for that meeting, the approved meeting minutes. And then we transmit the minutes and the motion to Kenny, and he'll do the financial moving around stuff. And then we'll have a much shorter project list,
Yeah.
hopefully in a few months. So, any questions about that?
The only thing that I'm gonna say, Mike, is I think there may be one or two other ones from recreation that could be closed out as well. That $35,000 one could actually be added to this. So for those of you who remember seeing the Excel or the other Excel form that Mike had been showing, there was a $35,000 one for Leland Field analysis, planning stuff that was going to be going on, which did not happen and is not moving forward. And that 35,000 is eligible to be returned as well.
Can I make a suggestion, Mike? I'll be happy to move that we, I'm concerned about the language, rescind the following CPA projects. You know, I would be comfortable moving that we vote to return the fund balances of the projects as outlined on the spreadsheet as presented. And then maybe, Rick, you could move, we could go back to the first spreadsheet and you can make a second motion. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's fine. I think the word rescind, right? So Kathy, if you haven't, if there's some agita with the word rescind, that
so
was actually
rescind the projects.
No, I know, but that
Yeah.
was kind of verbatim from Kenny, right? And I think that's why Mike put it together this way, because that's exactly how Kenny said he needed it. So I don't disagree with the thought process there. It was just a matter of, I think he needed that in order for it to go. And I don't believe he required that to go back to town meeting to be voted upon, that he could just handle it based on that wording.
That's my understanding too, Rick.
So
Yeah.
we're not rescinding the projects, even though we're saying we're rescinding the projects.
Yeah, in essence, we're really just closing them out and returning the monies to general account.
Okay, I'll leave it to someone else to make that motion, because you're right, Rick, it does give me agita. I don't want to be responsible for taking Barbara Burke's bench away from her. I'm sorry.
Well, you know, I could make take a friendly amendment to just, if rescind, you know, Kenny did use the word rescind, but we could move to close out the following projects. And you know, if that's all right with everybody, we can just, I wondered a little bit about the word too, but anyway.
Yeah, I like that way, Mike.
Okay. So how about this? I'll make the motion, and then Rick, if you would like to amend it to include that other recreation project, and we can discuss and vote. Okay. So motion, I move to close out the following CPA projects and request the treasurer collector transfer any remaining balances to the original CPA fund. And the list of projects is shown on an image that I will share with Kenny.
Yep.
I second that motion.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Any discussion? Rick, would you like to add
do we want to do that as an ad, or do we want to just do an additional motion for the 35,000 in addition to? Or
Um,
yeah, or okay, or and I'd like to amend the motion to add the $35,000 from Leland project to the overall listing, which is not to be added to the list that's being shown today.
okay,
I second that.
okay. And I can do that. Okay, any further discussion on this motion? Hearing none. I guess first vote would be to add that additional line item, and I would vote aye on that.
Rick, aye.
Chris, I.
Brittany, I.
Brian, I.
Kathy, I.
Okay, then I don't know if Russ is on, but all right. So majority vote, and then the second vote would be to approve this motion as amended. Mike, aye.
Chris, I.
Rick, aye.
Brittany, I.
Brian, I.
And Kathy, I.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Mike, could I ask a question here? The, for instance, the $220,000, I forget which project that was. That goes back to the original reserve fund, I guess. The reserve funds that were stated on your first slide, where you had all the projects, and then each one of the reserve funds, I think, was stated there. Were those decremented as that project was approved? Or so when this money goes back, does it actually change the amount, or it was kind of like a reserved? There's an item, a project attached to that fund, and expectations of the payments to come out of it.
As I understand it, when a project is approved, it's determined at that time which CPC fund bucket it comes out of, and there's open space rec, there's affordable housing, there's historical, and there's undesignated. And then the treasurer collector knows where the funds came from, and when we call out a project there's anything left, he I believe will put the funds back into that whatever account it came from.
Mm-hmm.
And
I was just wondering, does the actual usable funds increase because of this, or the balances that were stated? And I thought in your first listing of projects, I thought up top it listed out the balances of each one of those accounts, and I was wondering if those would increase now,
yes,
or just be less encumbered, I guess.
No, they will increase, as I understand it, because the right now, Kenny's got separate line items for all these projects, and if the project closed out, the money is returned back up to the original fund.
Oh, okay.
So those numbers will all go up.
I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. So there will be an increase in the basically the unobligated, unencumbered balances. Yeah.
Good.
So just to expand on that for a second. So when town meeting approves the expenditure of something, it's taken out of the account and put in its own designated bucket. And so it's not the number. So let's say there's 200,000 in an account, and town meeting votes to take 100,000 out to build a bridge. So that 100, and then the 100,000 is put, so then that account, the balance on that account would shrink to $100,000. And then if the bridge wasn't built and the money got put back, it would increase to 200,000. Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah, I believe so. Yep. Okay. Well, thank you.
I'm a little bit slower than you, Brian.
Never.
Okay. Next on the agenda is potential new projects, open space. I'm not sure if Bill Taylor is on or not tonight.
I
I
haven't
don't believe
seen
he
him.
is. So basically, I don't think there's much activity there. The Minden Road appraisal, that's some property that's adjacent to the Trask land. Bill, I don't think Bill has done anything with that yet. And then Lake Wildwood is also we're just waiting to hear from the estate or the people who are managing the estate of that property. So it definitely won't be any kind of an article for the upcoming fall town meeting. To new projects, I just want to open that up. If there's any, Rick, you mentioned a little bit about
Yeah.
recreation possibly.
Well, so just so everyone's aware, obviously BVT and Nipmuc have both been um, approaching the town about field conditions at the schools, the amount of offline things that have to be done, the search for turf to get games in for all sports really, and there's like a Mendon Upton school parents group that is trying to drive other analysis of aspects of fields and all that type of stuff. So Joe actually has called a meeting for Wednesday next week to bring that team, representatives from both schools, recreation and folks together to kind of get it all out on the table with what all the asks are, what opportunities we might have with Trask, maybe the church land that's adjacent to some of that Trask property that has been donated to the town could come into play there as well, just to see what's happening or what the potential next steps actually might be able to be. So is that gonna bear fruit right away? Probably not super quick, but it might be quick enough that some other analysis and planning aspects may come out of it. So just want to make sure the team is aware of that as another opportunity that may be coming.
Is there a feasibility plan yet for the Trask, for fields on the Trask property?
So we had, so yes and no. It probably needs an update. There was initial feasibility of what could have been done by BSC back in 2018-ish, and it's kind of sat dormant since. So I think it's just a matter of kind of bringing that back to the table and saying, okay, now that the community center's over, COVID's ended and all that type of stuff, and the litigation against the property is no longer, what can we do?
And the BSC, the feasibility study looked at the environmental conditions, the geotech, or was it just a conceptual of what the town wanted?
I think it was more conceptual of what the town wanted with minimal analysis for like runoff of stuff for environmental.
Yeah. No, I just heard that there's a lot of ledge there. It's very difficult to, convert into fields, but, I was thinking that a feasibility study might be a really good first step for this committee to, to do a comprehensive geotech.
Is there anywhere in town that there isn't ledge?
No. Some more than others.
Yeah. Very fair. And certainly, I think even when I forget, maybe 8 months ago, I kind of did a little dog and pony with what the master plan had and talked about those fields. And Mike, I think you even mentioned it at that time about the environmental analysis and runoff and things of from having an artificial field and what impact that would have. It's in the notes. We've got it, or we've got it as a line item that's going to need to be spelled out, because we know that the folks in town will be asking and looking for an answer on that.
Rick, is this some of the players involved in this meeting next week?
Mhm.
Is it the high schools also involved, or is this more the elementary and youth sports using these fields?
No. So this is high school. My understanding is it's high school. He wanted to get the superintendent involved. It's not elementary and it's not youth programs, right? This is really, BVT and Nipmuc, right? Meaning Mike and Chris, right? The two athletic directors,
Mhm.
that are constantly looking for space and, what other opportunities we may have within town.
So they're just
It
looking
is-
at fields at this point, just fields, not the whole master plan that included
Yeah.
ground and
So
all.
So I think so, but I think we'll find out more next week,
Okay.
right? That other group that is a bunch of parents that were trying to do some analysis on what else could be done. I don't know what their grand scheme has been of what they've tried or not tried to do, because they had talked about relaying out, at least at Nipmuc anyway. I had heard, where the baseball field is, that actually becomes football and soccer, and then the front field becomes baseball, and like shifting everything all around that works better, but does have turf options as well. But it sounded like that was, someone had to hit the lottery in order to make that whole thing work. So I don't know what their proposal is on the table right now.
Mhm. Then a follow-up question, being new, can we give funds to, I'm sure not the full project, but some of these maybe partial studies or something like that, to school districts, like BVT, a multi-town organization, and also for AstroTurf or artificial turf projects?
Yeah, so it's, from what I remember, and this is going back to what Paul had said, is certain funds could be used in certain ways for certain aspects of the project, but I do not believe that you could use that for like the turf itself, right? There's certain, like, you might be able to, put the construction cost of relaying out some of the land and how the
Mhm.
property and stuff is going to go, but you can't use it to buy the turf and have that laid down, right? So that
Yep.
that would have to come from some other source,
Okay.
or there was something along those lines. So, but I think that's how I remembered it being.
But theoretically, the town could build the fields.
That's
and
correct.
and the school district could rent them.
Yes, because those folks are well aware that the Trask property has been gifted to the town.
Yeah.
Right, and it's sitting kind of dormant at this point. So yep. So they've got a vested interest. I know the youth programs in town have a vested interest. It's just a matter of where is it in the pecking order of other things within the town, because our tax rates are already, kind of at a ceiling, right? So
Isn't there also a deadline by which time that the land has to be used for a recreational purpose, or it gets turned back over to St. Gabriel's? I thought that then, because it's something to be built with Harvey Trask's mother's name on it or something.
Yeah, so it doesn't go to St. Gabriel's. It actually goes to some other source that's out on the North Shore that actually would receive it. So I don't remember if there was a time frame or a time limit with that. I'd have to go back and check, Kathy. I know, I do know, obviously it was held up for, I want to say like 6 years or so, right?
Yeah.
In litigation from the fire, from his properties, in the center of town. So
I
So,
think it might be the trustees of reservations, might be the fallback organization. But
That was,
don't-
because I thought there was something that had, something had been built there with his mother's name on it.
yeah, that's definitely the case.
Yeah,
Right? He wants the, he wants it to be known as Trask Properties, and I think a field dedicated,
okay,
in memory, right?
okay.
So, yep.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good idea, well, just for Brian, and Catherine, there's in the state, there's an organization, the Community Preservation Act Coalition, and they're kind of a lobbying group. They're a nonprofit, but they're also a great source of information. Upton's a member. At their last meeting, we paid our dues for the year, and they're available. We could send them a question regarding, for example, the use of CPA funds for the artificial turf, and get a reliable answer back fairly quickly. And so, Rick, I don't know if you the contact there is Stuart Sagnar. I can get you his email, and if you wanted to like pose a question to them before your meeting next week, it might be a good idea. You get their current thinking on how these projects can be funded.
Yeah.
And I know Paul and Rena, many times they ask Stuart questions over the years.
Yeah.
So good source. And then
Yeah, no, good call out.
And the other thing, I don't have the exact date, but the coalition is hosting a seminar in Grafton. I think it's in November. I gotta find the date again. And we're all invited to that. It's kind of like a just a current status of the CPA, opportunities to ask questions, find out what's coming down the road, that kind of thing. And it's right next door in Grafton, so I'll send around that information for it. Okay, so other project updates, Grange Hall. I don't know if Russ is on. Russ asked me to put that on. As far as I know, it's completed. At least we've zeroed out the budget. I don't really know anything more than that about the Grange. And there's two other kind of larger projects. One is a trail bridge across Warren Brook at the Robertson's family CR. We're kind of hoping to put a request for proposals out on the street soon. Been talking to the town manager about that. Conservation agreed to kick in a little bit more money if needed to help fund that bridge. But there's a chance that could be constructed next year if everything goes well. And the other one is the Lakes and Ponds study, the management plan for Pratt and Mill Pond. That's in the town manager's hands. The scope is, or the request for proposal is ready to go, ready to be issued. So we're just waiting for the town manager to issue that RFP. Fall town meeting schedule. The warrant closes Friday. It doesn't look like we're going to have any requests for funding on the warrant. But there is one thing that we might want to consider, and that is I had sent around something for the possible revisions to the CPA bylaws. And basically, the major revision would be to potentially to add a dedicated position from the Community Housing Trust. Right now, there isn't one in the bylaw, and potentially to accommodate that position to reduce the number of select board appointees from 3 to 2. Did folks take a look at those edits?
You mean the Affordable Housing Trust, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. It's something we don't have to do that. we could just delay the whole thing until annual town meeting next year. I mean, right now I think we're operating fine as it is with Brian's appointment. But I think really what happened was this bylaw dates from 20 years ago, and at that time there wasn't an affordable housing trust, so that's why that that committee wasn't included in the bylaw. But so we could, if we wanted to, request town meeting to amend the bylaw. Any thoughts on that?
Like I think that's a good idea. I've been spending some time looking at the organization you just mentioned, the community preservation, that resource that you mentioned, and then also mass housing partnerships. For most towns, small towns like us, the CPA is the primary source of funding. So it's vital importance to the Affordable Housing Trust to have a connection, a strong connection, and through the membership, I think it'd be a very good idea. Kathy, I'm not sure what your view is, but I think that's as we hopefully get our action plan and then start acting on that, we'll have our own request and we could give that representation to this CPC committee.
Yeah, okay, I'll second that. I was gonna, that we might want to wait till spring, mainly because if we're going through this planning process, it'll give us a chance to see if there's any other bylaw changes. But I kind of like what Brian just said, and there's no reason why we can't go back if we see there's any other bylaw changes that are needed. So I will second what Brian just suggested, that we do put it on the fall warrant, and with the 2 revisions that that Mike mentioned. If Brian, you want to make the motion, that would be good.
I make a motion to change the bylaws to include a member from the Affordable Housing Trust on the CPC.
And you want to reduce the number of select appointments to 2 from 3?
Yeah, from 3 to 2. Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we
No,
need
I
to do
see.
that because we're limited to 9 members. So yes. So I can. So that was a motion made and seconded. I can quickly just show you the markup. You guys see that?
Yep.
Zoom it a bit. Okay, so here are the changes. There's one other small one right in the beginning, consisting of up to 9 voting members. I think at one time that Paul mentioned we should do that. And then here's the change, adding 1 member of the Affordable Housing Trust as designated by the trust for a term of 3 years.
Mike,
Yes.
Kathy, correct me if I'm wrong. I think our appointments are 2 years from the selectmen.
It can
Is that
be,
right, Kathy?
if you scroll through here, it's
don't know.
Somewhat variable. Just in the bylaws, it is now. Commissioner of Concom is 3 years, Historical is 3 years, Planning Board 3 years, Recreation initial 1 year, then so it seems like 3 years is mostly. So I just adopted 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it just seems, Brian, that if someone doesn't finish out their term, you just appoint someone to, from, there becomes another designee to.
Okay.
Yeah.
As long as we can easily do that, that's fine.
And anyway, then I proposing to reduce the select board appointees from 3 to 2. And and this will have to be reviewed by town council, and then any bylaw changes like this have to, if they're approved at town meeting, have to actually go to the Attorney General's office for kind of final approval. But anyway, so it's been.
This has to go to the planning board too, correct? Don't all bylaw changes have to go to? I thought all. bylaw changes had to go through the planning board. I know when the ZBA changed its composition, it had to go before us. But whatever. But
Yeah,
I will second Brian's motion.
Okay, so any discussion?
I think the 3-year period adds more consistency.
And Brian, do you
Any
want to amend your motion to be to place on the warrant a bylaw change to, I mean, is that
Yeah.
necessary, Mike, is to say to
No, I
place,
think that's good wording, friendly.
place on the warrant for the November, for the special town meeting?
town meeting. Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay. This meeting's being recorded, so I'll try to do the minutes and try to clean that up a little bit. The whole, hopefully it's being recorded. I believe it. If we're in trouble with this, because I've been taking notes. I think Denise hit the record button. So any further discussion? Hearing none. Mike, aye on the motion.
Chris, I.
Rick, I.
Brittany, I.
Brian, I.
Kathy, I.
And I'm sure Russ is still on, so I don't think Russ is because it's only so. Okay, so that's unanimous vote. Right, thank you. I think we're getting close to the end of the agenda here.
Hey, Mike, I did want to ask one thing, right? You had mentioned the trail bridge, one of the bridges actually, hopefully going out to bid next year. We did a series of approvals last year for bridges, right? Because we had the Pratt and Mill Pond one, we had the Warren Brook one, which I think is done and paid for, but we also had that Pratt and Mill Pond, I think there was just another one that was the Trail Bridge, which I actually think was the one that you were just referring to that has like $105,000 left in it, right?
Correct. Yeah, that's the bridge across Warren Brook on the Robertson family conservation restriction, and that was approved at town meeting.
Yeah.
We've got the design done basically. We hired an engineer firm to do design, and now it's just need to get the town to put a request for proposals out.
Yeah, I guess the concern, I guess where I was going with the concern there is that looks to have been done in the annual town meeting on May 4th of 2023. I haven't gone back in and looked at that just to see whether or not that was a 2-year or a 3-year term.
I
Right,
don't think it. I don't think it had a term limit on it.
I think it did, or I recall us putting a term on all those bridges. Maybe the Trail Bridge didn't, but I thought we did. The only reason I'm concerned on that one is because if we put things out to bid, in the beginning of next year, there's no way that money is still going to be available if it was only a 2-year term.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying. We should take a look at that.
I'll check that and make sure there's we're okay. Yeah, thanks. No, I'll look. I don't think there's one, but maybe there is. I'll check it.
Yeah,
If there was a limit, what's the procedure to continue it?
We did recently that came up, and talked with the town manager, and I believe Joe also talked to town council, and basically there's no way to amend that time limit without going back to town meeting. So basically once the time limit is expired, the activity is dead unless it goes back to town meeting. The CPC committee can't by ourselves extend that deadline or that time period.
Mike, is that an article maybe just for a placeholder for this Friday to put on the special town meeting until it's sorted out and known for detail whether we need to or don't need to? Like if there's no time limit, then that's fine. But if there is a time limit, would we want to go to the special town meeting for that request.
Yeah,
I-
entertain a motion like that. Sure, sure.
I wasn't there, so I'm not sure any background issues but it sounds like the project was approved and we're already spent some money and effort, a lot of effort on it.
Yeah, we've spent about 15,000. The budget was around 120. We've spent about 15,000 on design so far. I would make a motion to see what I want to say for the Warrenbrook Trail Bridge project to place an article on the special town meeting warrant if the project, the previously approved article is time limited, less than 5 years.
I second that.
Any discussion?
No.
Okay, hearing none. Mike, aye.
Chris, I.
Rick,
Brian,
I-
I.
Brittany, I.
Okay, that was unanimous. Thanks for mentioning that.
Yeah,
Rick.
I didn't vote, but it's not a unanimous because I'm going to recuse myself because that land does go through my parents' property.
Thank you, Kathy. Yep. Okay, so unanimous vote with one recusal. Okay, I think that's it. We've got unanticipated topics is the last thing on the agenda item that we haven't covered.
that we did.
All right. Well, see you all. I think the next meeting would be on October 2nd, Wednesday, October 2nd.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Mike?
Aye.
Thanks, folks.
Good
Bye.
night.
Bye.
Thanks.
Hi, everyone.
We're gonna